I never planned to go snooping through trash that day. Honestly, I only drove past my daughter-in-law's house hoping to drop off a small gift for my granddaughter, maybe catch a quick smile from her window. But the second I saw a familiar piece of fabric dangling from one of those big black garbage bags, something inside me froze. It was a baby blanket, a pale sea green quilt I stitched myself while my son and his wife waited for their little girl. When she was born, they wrapped her in it every night. Somehow, seeing it tossed aside like old laundry felt like someone had punched the breath out of my lungs. I pulled over, stepped out, and stared across the driveway as my daughter-in-law, Allison, walked quickly back into the house, leaving the trash bin lid half open behind her. The blanket was crumpled on top of the garbage. A part of me knew I should just let it go. Life had already taken so much from me, and maybe clinging to old fabric was just me being sentimental. But I couldn't walk away. Not from something that held so much of my son inside it. I lifted the lid, reached in, and pulled the blanket free. It smelled faintly of perfume, expensive perfume. And underneath that, something sour, like it had been hidden somewhere it shouldn't have been. I folded it gently, got back in my car, and didn't look back. At home, I smoothed it across my bed. I should have left it alone and stuffed it into a drawer. Instead, I ran my fingers along each stitch, remembering the nights I stayed awake knitting it, excited to meet my first grandchild. My hands paused at the center, where something felt wrong. A stiff shape hidden beneath layers of soft cotton, not part of the quilting, not padding, something else. I pinched along the seam. Whoever had sewn it back up did it neatly, too neatly. The stitching wasn't mine. My heart thudded painfully. I fetched scissors from the drawer and set at the edge of the bed. Every snip echoed in the quiet room, as if I was cutting open a wound. I pushed my fingers inside, expecting maybe a forgotten toy or a lost pacifier. But instead, I pulled out a small black cell phone. Older, a model from several years ago, its battery long dead. For a long moment, I stared at it resting on my palm, stunned. Why would someone hide a dead phone inside a baby blanket? And more importantly, why throw it away now? Years had passed since my son accidentally fell and never woke up. Sometimes grief makes you question things you shouldn't, but holding that phone, I felt a cold certainty crawl through me. Something wasn't right. And I had no idea yet just how dark things were about to get. But the moment that screen finally lit up, everything I believed about my son's death shattered. Before I continue, please hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because what I discovered next still chills me, even today. I found an old charger tucked in the back of my nightstand drawer, the kind you keep just in case. I wasn't even sure it would fit the outdated phone, but somehow it clicked into place like it had been waiting all along. I plugged it in, then sat on the edge of my bed watching that dark screen the way you'd watch the second hand on a clock during a storm. Nothing happened for a few minutes, and I almost convinced myself the phone was dead forever. But slowly, the tiniest sliver of light appeared along the corner of the display. I felt my pulse jump, my breath catching somewhere between hope and dread. I waited. 5 minutes, 10, and finally, the home screen blinked alive. No passcode, no fingerprint, just fully open, as if someone never expected another soul to find it. I hesitated. I could have turned the phone off, tucked it away, pretended none of this existed. Maybe my son really had slipped on the stairs and I was simply a grieving mother looking for ghosts where there were none. But curiosity has a way of dragging you toward the very thing you're terrified to know. The screen showed old apps, messages, gallery, notes, everything untouched for years. I opened the photo gallery first. My breath stopped. The first picture was Allison, my daughter-in-law, smiling across a candlelit table at a nice restaurant. Only she wasn't alone. A man sat close beside her, his arm around her shoulders, lips pressed against her cheek. The date was from 4 years ago, when my son was still alive. Every part of me went numb. My son adored her. He worked double shifts, saved every vacation day just to build a future she claimed she wanted. And while he worked, she was somewhere else, with him. I kept scrolling. The same man appeared in hotel rooms, beaches, cars, all within that same year. An entire life hidden behind my son's back. Still, cheating doesn't equal murder. I told myself that again and again. But then I opened the messages. Long threads between Allison and a contact saved only as the letter H. At first, they were flirtatious, then angry, then something darker. She wrote she couldn't stand pretending anymore, that my son was in the way, that she wished he would just disappear. I read that line twice, then 10 times. My stomach twisted. I felt like I was falling even though I was sitting perfectly still. And then I saw the message that truly broke me. I need him gone. There has to be another way. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just looking at an affair. I was staring straight into a plan. Because buried in that phone were messages that suggested my son's death wasn't an accident at all. It was arranged. I don't know how long I sat there, minutes, an hour, reading the same lines over and over, my hands shaking against the phone like I was holding something radioactive. It was surreal. My brain kept trying to reject what my eyes were seeing. My daughter-in-law, the woman who wept at my son's funeral, talking casually about needing him out of the picture. But the worst part? That message wasn't the last. There were more, longer ones where she pushed harder. She wrote that Matthew wouldn't divorce her, that he was traditional, stubborn, impossible, that he'd never understand. Every sentence stabbed deeper. She said she wanted a life with this other man, wanted a fresh start, wanted freedom. And every time he tried to calm her down, she came back with darker ideas. Until finally she wrote, I talked to someone who can help. That one sentence slammed through me like a punch. Someone who can help? Help with what? Divorce? Or something far, far worse? The replies became more frantic, then silent. The messages stopped exactly a week before my son supposedly fell. Coincidence? Or not? My heart already knew. I stood up, pacing the room, clutching the phone like it was burning me. Everything inside me wanted to scream, but instead I kept digging because grief teaches you something ugly. When you're already broken, you'll risk shattering completely just to find the truth. I checked the Notes app next. 1 file, 1 entry. Dated 2 days before my son died. Tuesday, 3:15 p.m. He'll be alone. Make it look like an accident. My knees gave out, literally. I slid down the side of the bed to the floor, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. My son didn't fall. My son didn't slip. My son didn't just die. Someone planned it. Someone wrote it down. Someone scheduled it. And the someone was living their life like nothing ever happened. I don't remember sleeping that night. I sat in a chair until sunrise, staring at that horrible device, while my house felt suddenly too quiet, too dark, too full of ghosts. When morning finally came, all I knew was this. I couldn't face this alone. I needed someone to hear me, someone to witness what I'd found, someone who wouldn't dismiss it as the paranoid ramblings of a grieving old woman. There was only one person I trusted after losing my husband and son. My old neighbor, my closest friend, the one person who had never once lied to me. I picked up the phone and dialed her number. She answered, sounding half asleep. I told her I needed her right away. Her voice changed instantly. "I'm coming," she said. "Don't move." And when she arrived, the horror written across her face told me I wasn't imagining any of it. My neighbor, Gloria, has known me nearly my whole life. We raised our kids a few houses apart, swapped holiday dinners, survived widow leg together. If anyone knew when I was being dramatic or when something was truly wrong, it was her. She arrived at my house still wearing slippers and a sweater thrown over her nightgown. The moment she stepped inside, I could tell she sensed something awful. "What happened?" she asked, eyes scanning my expression. I didn't answer right away. I led her into my bedroom, where the blanket lay folded and that phone sat on top of it like some kind of cursed object. She looked from the blanket to me, confused. "You're scaring me." So I started from the beginning. How I saw the blanket tossed away, how I pulled it out of the trash, how I found the hidden phone sewn into it, stitch by stitch like someone wanted it concealed forever. When I told her about the texts, the affair, the messages about making Matthew disappear, her face drained of all color. "Let me see," she whispered. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the photos, then the texts, then the note with the time scheduled out like a doctor's appointment. When she finally looked up, her eyes were glossy with tears. "This is evidence," she said. "This is real evidence." Hearing someone else say it made my knees weak. Because once another person acknowledges something, you can't shove it back into denial. "But what do I do?" I asked. "Walk into the police station and tell them I found a murder plan sewn into a baby quilt?" Gloria didn't laugh. She didn't doubt me. She sat beside me, thinking. "What about the man from the pictures?" she said. "Maybe he's still in her life. Maybe we can find out who he is." It wasn't much of a plan, but it was something. I grabbed my laptop and opened Allison's social media. Her account was mostly public, full of old anniversary posts and smiling photos. But the friends list was open. Hundreds of names. Too many. Gloria leaned closer. "Search for men with names starting with H." So I did. One by one, I clicked Harold, Henry, Howard, but none matched the man from the photos. Until one profile appeared. Harrison Miller. And there he was. The same face from the restaurant pictures. The same man kissing Allison. "That's him," I whispered. Gloria covered her mouth. "So she had help," she murmured. "She wasn't alone." My stomach twisted. Because if she wasn't alone in the affair, she might not have been alone in planning my son's death. Suddenly, all I could think was, what if this wasn't just infidelity? What if this was a conspiracy? And the terrifying part was, we were only just beginning to uncover how deep it really went. Before I continue, make sure you subscribe and comment what state you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to follow this story to the end. Gloria and I sat there staring at Harrison's pictures like we'd discovered a ghost. I kept flipping between his profile and the photos on the hidden phone to be sure I wasn't just imagining things. Same face, same hair, same easy grin. No question at all. "We need to find out more about him," Gloria said. Part of me wanted to close the laptop and pretend I hadn't seen any of it, but I knew I couldn't. My son deserved the truth, even if it destroyed me. Harrison lived in our city, worked in construction according to his profile. Ordinary on paper, except nothing felt ordinary anymore. I clicked through his posts, but Allison had conveniently disappeared from everything after that year, like she had erased their history. Gloria spoke softly, almost afraid to say it out loud. What if Harrison helped her? What if he was part of Matthew's death? The room felt suddenly colder, like the truth itself was drawing oxygen out of the air. "I need more proof," I whispered. "We need to know what really happened." Gloria hesitated, then suggested something I hadn't dared to think. "What if we go to her house?" she said. "If she hit one phone, maybe there are other things, documents, emails, something that connects them." The idea terrified me, but I couldn't ignore it. If Allison was involved in my son's death, then she'd already gotten away with it for years. Meanwhile, she was raising his daughter like nothing happened. "No," I said at first. "We can't just show up." Gloria thought a moment. "Tell her you want to visit your granddaughter. Ask to come over. While you're talking to her, I'll look around quietly." It sounded reckless, but also necessary. So I picked up my phone and typed a message. "Hi, Allison. I miss little Ellie so much. Could I stop by to see her this afternoon?" Minutes passed. My pulse hammered louder with each one. Finally, her reply came. "Today isn't great. Ellie is cranky." Another excuse. Always another excuse. But this time, I wasn't backing down. I typed, "Just for a few minutes. I bought her a present." A longer pause this time. Then, "Fine, but only for half an hour. I'm busy." I exhaled shakily. That was all we needed. We waited until afternoon. Gloria agreed to follow behind my car and wait for me to give a signal before coming inside. When I finally pulled into Allison's driveway, I stared up at the same house where my son supposedly fell, where everything ended. And I felt it deep in my bones. Whatever we discovered next would change everything. But the moment I stepped through her front door, I realized I wasn't prepared for any of what was coming. The doorbell echoed through the quiet house, and for a moment I stood frozen there on the porch, replaying every memory I had of this place. Birthday dinners, Christmas mornings, afternoons when Matthew grilled burgers on the patio. This house used to feel like home. Now it felt like a crime scene. When Allison finally opened the door, she looked perfectly put together. Hair sleek, blouse neatly pressed, a soft smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Oh, hi," she said as if surprised. "Come in." I stepped inside cautiously, trying to hide the nervous tremor in my hands. The smell of lavender candles hung in the air. Everything was spotless, almost staged. "Where's Ellie?" I asked. "She's upstairs," Allison said, her voice cool. "I'll bring her down." She walked up the staircase, yes, the same staircase where my son supposedly fell, while I stood frozen below staring at the exact spot where my life shattered. Moments later, she returned with my granddaughter in her arms, bigger now, curls brushing her shoulders, her little voice bright and innocent. "Grandma!" she squealed, reaching for me. My heart softened instantly as I hugged her tight. She smelled like baby shampoo, like purity, like the only good thing that survived the fire. Allison hovered nearby, checking her phone constantly, glancing toward the windows, the hallway, the clock. Something about her energy felt nervous, edgy. So I sent Gloria a quick text under the table. "Come in now." About 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Allison frowned, suspicious. "Are you expecting someone?" I shook my head lightly. "Probably a delivery." Allison opened the door, and there stood Gloria, smiling politely. "I'm so sorry. I was with Elena earlier and left my purse in her car. Could I use your restroom real quick?" Allison's face twitched, uncertain, but finally she nodded. Down the hall. Gloria slipped inside and disappeared around the corner. Now it was my job to stall, so I started talking, non-stop, about Ellie's preschool, about old photos of Matthew, about how much I missed him. Every time I said his name, Allison's jaw tightened. "I made that blanket for Ellie," I said suddenly. Her eyes snapped toward me, just for 1 second. Cold, sharp. "Oh, the blanket? Sure, it's, somewhere." I knew she was lying. I knew she'd thrown it away because of what was inside it, and just mentioning it made her visibly uneasy. Before she could respond, Gloria reappeared from the hallway, forcing a polite smile. "Thank you," she murmured, touching my shoulder lightly, the signal we agreed on. We said quick goodbyes, Ellie hugging me again, before Allison practically ushered us out of the house. I didn't breathe normally again until we reached the car. "What did you find?" I whispered. Gloria pulled an envelope from her purse. "You're not going to believe this." Because inside that envelope were documents that proved Allison didn't just betray my son, she profited from his death. We pulled away from the house before either of us dared open the envelope. My heart hammered against my ribs as Gloria finally untucked the flap and slid a stack of folded papers into my lap. "What am I looking at?" I asked, scared to even touch them. "Just read," she said quietly. The first document was a life insurance policy, my son's, $500,000, and Allison, my daughter-in-law, was the sole beneficiary. The payout date? 3 months after Matthew died. I felt sick. Sure, it's normal for a spouse to receive life insurance money, but when that spouse also cheated and spoke about wanting him gone and then benefited financially after his accident? That's not coincidence. That's motive. My stomach kept twisting as I flipped to the next sheet. Bank statements, large wire transfers, some directly to an account under the name of H. Miller. Harrison, $200,000 sent less than 6 months after Matthew's death. Blood roared in my ears. Allison had paid him, not just loved him, paid him. "Please tell me there's another explanation," I whispered. Gloria didn't answer because there wasn't one. And it got worse. Another document, a birth certificate, Ellie's, but the mother's name wasn't Allison. It read Lydia Torres. I blinked and reread it. No, that had to be a mistake. My daughter-in-law had been pregnant. I saw her. Everyone did. How is this possible?" I stammered. "I don't know," Gloria whispered, "but look at the date. Allie's birthday didn't match what Allison told everyone. It was off by almost 2 months, older than we were told." The pieces began sliding into place in the most horrifying way.
Are you saying Allison faked a pregnancy or stole a baby? I said quietly. Gloria swallowed hard. We need to find out who Lydia Torres was. We drove straight back to my house and pulled out my laptop. I typed the name into search engines, social media, public records, anything. For a few minutes, nothing made sense. Too many random people with similar names. Then one link stopped me cold. A local news article from about 4 years earlier. Young mother missing, family pleads for answers. I clicked it. A photo loaded. A young Latina woman with gentle eyes and long dark hair, only 23 when she disappeared. The article said she left behind her infant daughter. An infant. A baby. Right at the time Ellie was supposedly born. I covered my mouth with my hand. The horror was impossible to ignore. Lydia didn't abandon her baby. Someone took her. My hand started shaking uncontrollably. Because if Allison was capable of cheating and plotting a murder and collecting insurance money, what else was she capable of? The next article we found made it clear Lydia didn't just disappear, she was found dead.
Gloria gasped first. I didn't understand what she saw until she gently guided my eyes to the next headline. Remains identified as missing woman Lydia Torres. My blood turned to ice. Lydia wasn't missing. She'd been murdered. The article explained her body had been found nearly a year after she vanished, left in an abandoned industrial lot outside the city. The cause of death was blunt force trauma. The same description used for my son. No one had ever been charged. It was just another cold case. Gloria covered her mouth. This can't be coincidence. I stared at the article until the words blurred together. My son, Matthew, a man who healed strangers for a living, was taken from me. And Lydia, a young mother no one cared enough to investigate, was tossed away like she never existed. But they weren't random victims. They were connected through the same woman. In my bones, I felt the truth forming. Allison killed her. Allison killed Lydia to take her baby. Gloria squeezed my hand, but she didn't tell me I was wrong. I don't think either of us believed in coincidences anymore. This isn't just jealousy, Gloria said. This is something else, something bigger. Money, maybe? Or obsession? Or both? We have to call the police, she said finally. I need more proof, I insisted, voice trembling. I need everything, every detail. I want them to believe me. Because here's the thing about grief. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you wonder if your pain is tricking you. But this wasn't imagination. These were documents, records, transfers, bodies. We decided to gather everything we had, photos, bank statements, messages, birth certificate, and meet with a detective first thing in the morning. I didn't sleep that night. I sat awake thinking about Lydia, about how scared she must have been in her final moments, a young mother trying to protect her baby, only for a stranger to take everything from her. And then I thought about Ellie, my granddaughter by heart, if not by blood, and how she'd been raised by the monster who killed her real mother and her adoptive father. I watched Ellie sleep on my couch that night, wrapped in a clean blanket, clutching her teddy bear. I made a silent promise to Matthew and Lydia both. I'll protect her. I'll make this right. The next morning, Gloria and I drove to the police precinct. My hands trembled the entire time. I half expected someone to stop me before I reached the station, like Allison somehow knew. But nobody stopped us. Inside, we waited nervously until a tall detective introduced himself. "Detective Jordan," he said. "How can I help?" I took a deep breath. I need to report 2 murders. And I think the woman who killed them is still raising my granddaughter. Detective Jordan didn't rush me. He sat behind his desk, leaned forward, and listened like every word mattered. That small gesture alone almost broke me. I hadn't felt truly heard since the day Matthew died. I started from the beginning: the blanket, finding the hidden phone, the messages, the affair, the birth certificate, the insurance payout, the transfer to Harrison. Every detail felt heavier the more I said it out loud. Gloria filled in what I missed, handing him printed screenshots as if she were passing over fragments of a nightmare. The detective's expression shifted slowly, from polite interest to professional concern, then finally something sharper. "This phone," he said, lifting it carefully, "you found it inside the baby blanket?" I nodded. "Hidden deliberately?" "Yes." "And your daughter-in-law threw it away just recently?" I swallowed hard. "I saw her do it." He studied the phone like it was a ticking bomb. "This is extremely serious," he said quietly. "I'm reopening your son's case, and I'm contacting the homicide department about Lydia Torres today." My hands shook. I didn't know whether to cry or collapse. "Will Allison be arrested?" "Not yet. I need enough to secure a warrant. If she senses we're looking at her, she could flee or worse." Worse. The word hit me like a fist. "Ellie is still living with her," I whispered. He nodded grimly. "Child Protective Services needs legal grounds to remove her. Without concrete proof, a lawyer could argue everything was circumstantial." I understood legally what he meant, but emotionally it felt unbearable. Every hour my granddaughter stayed under that roof felt like torture. "I'll put surveillance on her house. No one will leave without us knowing." It was something. Not enough, but something. Days passed like years. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart nearly stopped. Finally, a week later, Detective Jordan called. "We exhumed your son's body for a second autopsy." I braced against the wall. The medical examiner found grip bruises on his wrists, consistent with restraint. He didn't fall. Someone held him in place before the impact. Someone pushed him. I dropped the phone. Gloria picked it up because I couldn't breathe. It wasn't an accident. I hadn't been crazy. My instincts were right. Later that afternoon, the detective called again. Harrison finally cracked under questioning. He admitted the affair. He also admitted Allison talked about getting rid of Matthew. "But," I asked, terrified of his answer. "He claims he never agreed. He's lawyering up now." Of course he was. But something told me he was more than just a frightened boyfriend. Something told me he was deeply involved. And I was right, because when investigators dug deeper, they found Harrison's fingerprints all over Lydia's disappearance, too. The next time Detective Jordan called, his tone was different, tense, urgent, almost shaking. "We're bringing Harrison in for a full interrogation," he said. "We found new evidence linking him to the Torres case." I felt my pulse spike. What evidence? A vehicle registered under his name was seen near the industrial site where Lydia's remains were discovered. A witness came forward after we reopened the case. My voice trembled. "So he murdered her?" "We don't know yet," he said, "but there's solid indication he was involved." I wanted to scream, cry, collapse. Instead, I asked the one question that mattered most. "What about Allison?" "We're closer," he answered, "but we need a confession or undeniable physical evidence. Right now, she's pretending nothing's happening." Pretending, acting like a grieving widow, raising a child she stole. It made my stomach twist. Later that night, as I sat at the dining table staring at Ellie's drawings taped to my refrigerator, A terrifying thought hit me. If Allison felt cornered, she might try to run, or worse, eliminate loose ends, meaning Ellie might not be safe. I called the detective immediately. "We're moving as fast as we can," he assured me. "But please don't confront her. Let us do this the right way." But doing nothing felt impossible. Days stretched painfully until finally, something broke loose. Detective Jordan called early in the morning. I could practically hear adrenaline in his voice. "Harrison's agreed to a plea bargain." What does that mean? He wants immunity for testifying against Allison. My breath left my chest. So he'll tell the truth? He already did, the detective said. He admitted Allison planned Matthew's murder. He claims Allison pressured him, threatened to expose him for Lydia's disappearance if he didn't help. So he helped? He lured Matthew up the stairs, shoved him from behind. Allison made sure there were no witnesses. I sank into my chair, shaking. I could practically hear my son's voice, feel his laughter, see his smile, and then suddenly it was gone forever. "What about Lydia?" I whispered. "He claims Allison hired someone professional, but our investigators believe Harrison was more involved than he's admitting." Of course he was. "What about Ellie?" I asked through tears. "We're getting a warrant to remove her from the home, but we need to physically secure the scene. We're heading there now." I froze. "Right now?" "Yes, stay home. We don't want you near the area until we have Allison in custody." I knew he meant well, but there was no universe where I could simply sit still while police stormed that house. Gloria grabbed her keys. "We're going," she said. I didn't even argue. We drove straight toward my old home, hearts pounding. Police cars flew past us with sirens blazing. Whatever was about to happen would finally end this nightmare. But when we arrived outside the house, the scene was far more horrifying than anything we imagined. When we pulled onto the street, a wall of flashing lights lit up the entire neighborhood. Squad cars, unmarked vehicles, even an ambulance idled at the curb with doors open, as if waiting for something terrible. My stomach dropped. Before I could even step out, an officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, you can't be here." "That's my granddaughter in there," I screamed. "Where is she?" He didn't answer, just pointed us back toward the sidewalk while more officers rushed inside with weapons drawn. I could hear frantic shouting coming from the front door. In that moment, every horrible possibility flooded through my mind. What if Allison already fled? What if she took Ellie? What if she hurt her? Minutes passed like hours, until finally, 2 detectives emerged carrying Ellie, crying, confused, her little arms reaching out blindly. "Grandma!" I pushed past the tape and grabbed her, sobbing into her hair. She clung to me, trembling. But the horror wasn't over. Detective Jordan approached slowly, his expression tight. "We have Allison in custody," he said, but his voice didn't sound relieved. It sounded grim. "What happened?" I asked. "He tried to leave through the back door when she saw us pulling up. She had belongings packed and was attempting to escape with the child." My breathing hitched. "Was she armed?" Jordan nodded. "A kitchen knife. We detained her without injury, but she wasn't planning to surrender." Ellie whimpered and hid her face against my chest. Gloria rubbed my back gently. "It's over now," she whispered. But Detective Jordan shook his head. "Not exactly." "What do you mean?" His voice dropped to a chilling calm, the kind people use when they're trying not to panic anyone. "Allison is claiming she's innocent. She's saying Harrison forced her, that he's the one who planned everything.
I stared at him in disbelief. He confessed! She claims he threatened her, blackmailed her, manipulated her, and she's saying she only acted out of fear. I almost laughed at the absurdity, but grief has taught me there's nothing funny about lies. "What about Lydia?" I asked. Jordan exhaled slowly. She denies knowing anything about Lydia Torres, says she never met her. My pulse hammered painfully. Was she delusional or just evil? Then Jordan added something far worse. Harrison is now changing his story. He's saying Allison planned everything, that she hired someone to kill Lydia and used him as the fall guy. My mouth went dry. They're blaming each other? Yes, he said. And without clear evidence tying either directly to Lydia's murder, the case is complicated. I stared at the house where my son died, where Ellie grew up beside the woman who stole her life's foundation. "So what happens now?" I whispered. Jordan placed a hand on my shoulder. "Now we dig hard, because someone murdered Lydia and someone murdered your son, but proving exactly who did what may take everything we've got." His final words chilled my bones. And then he said something that made every hair on my arm stand up. "We found a third victim we didn't know about." Detective Jordan guided me a few steps away from the police tape before he continued, almost as if he didn't want anyone else to overhear what came next. "While searching the basement," he said slowly, "our team found personal items belonging to a third woman. Items we believe were taken as trophies." Trophies? The word hit me like ice. A necklace, a driver's license, a journal. All belonging to a woman reported missing 5 years ago. Gloria grasped my arm hard enough to leave marks. "Are you saying Allison killed multiple people?" Jordan shook his head. "We don't know if it was Allison. Some things point to Harrison. Others point to another individual entirely." Another individual? Another accomplice? Another predator? My lungs felt too small. Jordan continued, "This missing woman, Jessica Avery, was last seen at a job interview. We believe Harrison met her at a construction site. He was working there at the time." "So he found her?" I said. "Maybe. But here's the thing. The interview she went to was supposedly scheduled by a female employer, a woman named Allison Miller." My mind spun. Harrison's last name. But Allison's maiden name wasn't Miller. So she changed her identity, used his name, or used it before him? Jordan nodded slowly. "We think Allison and Harrison may have known each other long before you ever met her, possibly posing as a married couple under different names." My stomach turned. "You're telling me Allison isn't even Allison?" "We're still piecing it together," he said carefully. "But evidence suggests she and Harrison ran a long-term scheme targeting vulnerable women, stealing identities, possibly abducting children. Child abductions, stolen babies, murder. And all the while she was smiling in family photos, taking holiday pictures with my son, raising Ellie as if nothing was wrong." Gloria grasped my arm hard enough to leave marks. "Are you saying Allison killed multiple people?" Jordan shook his head. "We don't know if it was Allison. Some things point to Harrison. Others point to another individual entirely." Another individual, another accomplice, another predator. My lungs felt too small. Jordan continued, "This missing woman,
Jessica Avery, was last seen at a job interview. We believe Harrison met her at a construction site. He was working there at the time. So he found her, I said. Maybe, but here's the thing. The interview she went to was supposedly scheduled by a female employer, a woman named Allison Miller. My mind spun. Harrison's last name, but Allison's maiden name wasn't Miller. So she changed her identity, used his name, or used it before him? Jordan nodded slowly. We think Allison and Harrison may have known each other long before you ever met her, possibly posing as a married couple under different names. My stomach turned. You're telling me Allison isn't even Allison? We're still piecing it together, he said carefully. But evidence suggests she and Harrison ran a long-term scheme, targeting vulnerable women, stealing identities, possibly abducting children. Child abductions, stolen babies, murder. And all the while she was smiling in family photos, taking holiday pictures with my son, raising Ellie as if nothing was wrong. Gloria spoke through clenched teeth. So Matthew wasn't her first victim. Her silence answered everything. I started shaking, not crying, shaking. The kind of trembling that starts in your bones and works outward. Where is Allison now? I asked. In custody, but her attorney is already demanding evidence, arguing she's mentally coerced. Harrison is blaming her. She's blaming him. Both are denying involvement in Jessica's disappearance, and neither will confess anything about Lydia. So Lydia's murder could go unsolved? His silence was answer enough. I looked down at Ellie in my arms, innocent eyes staring up at me, having no idea she had survived a chain of horrors just by existing. I want full custody, I said firmly. You'll get it. But stay alert. This case is not over, and until we know how many victims there really are, you're still in danger. The wind cut cold against my face. Still in danger. Because someone else might be involved. Someone they worked with. Someone who wasn't caught. And when I finally checked the hidden phone again later that night, a new message appeared, sent only minutes earlier. I stared at the screen like it was a ghost speaking. A new text message, sent minutes earlier, from a number that wasn't saved in the phone and had never appeared in any earlier messages. You should have left things alone. My chest tightened. This phone had been powered off for years. Whoever sent that message must have known it turned back on, which meant someone else was monitoring it, someone who wasn't Harrison or Allison. Gloria peered over my shoulder, voice trembling. That number isn't either of theirs. It wasn't local, not even the same area code. My mind raced. If there was a third accomplice, maybe they watched Allison and Harrison from a distance. Maybe they were still operating. Maybe they were the one who stayed hidden while the others took the blame. I texted the number back before fear could stop me. Who are you? No bubble, no typing indicator, just silence. For the rest of the day, I couldn't eat or think. Ellie played quietly, unaware that a predator might still be lurking somewhere out there, watching us. That night, I put her to bed and sat by her door listening to her tiny breaths, terrified something would happen while she slept. I jumped at every car passing outside, every distant sound, every shadow crossing the walls. It wasn't until well after midnight that my phone buzzed again, not the hidden one, my personal phone. Unknown number. We're not finished. My blood turned cold. They weren't threatening in rage. They were almost calm, like someone nudging a piece on a chessboard. I dialed Detective Jordan immediately. He answered groggy but alert within seconds. What happened? I read him the messages word for word. He didn't interrupt once. Finally, he said, "We traced Harrison and Allison's communication history. There's a third contact neither of them will name. That person coordinated payment transfers through foreign accounts." "So the real person is still out there," I whispered. "Yes," he answered grimly. "And they may have orchestrated everything. Everything. Matthew, Lydia, Jessica, and maybe more. We're placing a protection unit outside your home. Don't open the door to anyone. Don't respond to unknown messages. We'll get to the bottom of this." I hung up, but sleep was impossible. Around 3 a.m., I checked the old, hidden phone again. Not because I wanted to, but because fear pushed me. 3 new messages, all from the same unknown number. "We know who you are. We know where you live. Turn the phone off." I dropped it onto the carpet like it was burning my hands. My heart pounded as footsteps creaked outside my front porch. Slow, deliberate, stopping right by my door. I froze, listening, waiting. And then, barely above a whisper, someone tapped on the window. The tapping at the window wasn't loud, just a soft, rhythmic knock, like someone using their fingertip instead of a full hand. I held my breath, frozen where I stood, every instinct in my body screaming to run. Ellie slept upstairs, Gloria dozed in the guest room, and I was rooted in place, staring at the thin curtains separating us from whoever waited outside in the dark. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. I didn't pull the curtain back. I didn't dare. The dispatcher answered calmly. I whispered the address, my voice barely audible. "Someone's outside my house. They tapped on my window. Please hurry." She stayed on the line as I backed away from the living room, my eyes glued to the window, even though I couldn't see anything. The tapping stopped, but I felt eyes on me. I could feel them. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights cut through the night. Officers swarmed the front yard, shouting commands. When they finally gave the all clear, I opened the door just long enough to speak with them. "No one's there now," one officer said, "but we found footprints leading toward the woods behind the property." Footprints. Someone close enough to watch us. Detective Jordan arrived moments later. He looked exhausted but focused, like the situation had become personal for him too. "We traced the number that texted you. It belongs to a burner phone purchased in another state. We're coordinating with federal agencies. This case goes far beyond your family." I swallowed. "So the real killer is still out there?" His jaw tightened. Someone orchestrated these murders. Someone planned every step, hired accomplices, and chose victims carefully. We're not stopping until we find them. I looked toward the woods, the darkness that swallowed those footprints, and felt a cold realization sink in. This story wasn't neat. It wasn't tied with a bow. Evil doesn't always get caught in time for a satisfying ending. But maybe justice doesn't come all at once. Maybe it comes piece by piece, truth by truth. Later, once Ellie was awake and safe in my arms, I brushed her hair away from her forehead and whispered, "You're home now. You're safe." Gloria squeezed my shoulder. "Matthew would be proud of you," she said softly. I nodded, tears forming. And Lydia, too. We held Ellie close, promising silently to protect her, not just because she needed us, but because there were women before her who never got the chance to be saved. The police continued their investigation. Allison and Harrison remained behind bars awaiting trial. And somewhere, the real mastermind walked free, for now. But I wasn't afraid anymore, because I finally understood something. Monsters hide in secrets, so the only way to defeat them is to bring every secret into the light. And I will spend the rest of my life doing exactly that.